Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and for this year, are you ready to go on an unexpected journey there and back yet into Middle-earth? Because this is where we are, the Season 1 finale of Rings of Power. Luckily, this show, we know there's a Season 2 coming, but yes, Season 1 finale. I am Dark Deeds in the Shadow, Travis Snell. I'm joined by...
I am the Mad King, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the sacrificed, Dylan Muss.
I am Mount Doom and Taylor Field.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can just go, and there's a plethora of content dropping right now. The She-Hulk finale, House of Dragons, me and Taylor are reviewing Halloween ends in a little bit here, well, the next 24 hours and stuff like that. But tons of things popping off, reviews and everything, newscasts, side quests, the whole shebang. Taylor, where can they find that all?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find that with our internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook.
I'm going to keep all the other links short because it's later and we got a big show to talk about. Everything you need to know is down below. The video, the audio, the Discord, the podcast network, our podcast separate feeds, the Patreon where you can get ad-free exclusive early episodes. Next week, Joy, we're going to be doing our first ever movie night with the patrons, so that's going to be fun. You can vote in polls at the highest tier, which is the Patreon producer tier. Big shout out to Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Smiley Biggs, and Joshua Wright. And then most importantly, you probably can't see it, but what I am wearing right now is the Extra Life. This is the 2021 edition Extra Life t-shirt, but I am wearing that because we are just a little under a month. This is October 13th, 14th, and stuff like that. November 5th is when we'll be doing our charity stream, 24 hours for Extra Life, BC Children's Hospital. All the proceeds go towards it, and they are tax deductible. So whatever you can donate, we would very much appreciate it. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you want to check that out because there's going to be a nice block of Lord of the Rings Monopoly, and that's going to be, I've played this Lord of the Rings Monopoly, and it's a very quicker version of Monopoly. You get to actually have the ring with you and stuff like that. It's a good old time and stuff like that. I know Sarah and Amanda are sound like they're joined for that. So if you're into that, and then also a bunch of events. We have me and Taylor wrestling a ladder match. We're going to keep it cool for the next 2 months because we've signed contracts to make sure we actually keep GeekVerse going. But I'm going to crush his neck even more than it's been crushed before. Title matches, the Gauntlet send-off. Speaking of, we'll be recording a Gauntlet send-off this weekend about some behind-the-scene details, just reminiscing, talking about the league. And then also, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you can check out last week. We dropped it this week. We recorded last week. Is our Lord of the Rings cinematic universe. We had an hour-plus discussion about, okay, what could Embracer do with these films? Should they be prequels? Could they remake the films? And what 6 films would we greenlight if we had the book? So that's what we're doing. Dylan must start us off hot. The finale for Rings of Power. You were the first one to see these episodes way back when the first 2. So I'm letting you to be the first one to speak on the finale.
The only on the big
That's
screen,
the only
too.
I had.
That's a beautiful title.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of feel like I went back to that because I just bought a new TV this week.
Ooh.
So nice. Got more. I got that 4K now. I got like that bigger screen and all that.
Did you keep that receipt?
I do have the receipt.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Of course.
Good.
I'm keeping
Good.
it.
Fax it over.
Sorry, I didn't know what originally you were asking. Rings of
I'm
Power.
coming to get it.
Episode 8 and the season as a whole. I'm feeling a little deflated right now. I didn't love this finale a whole lot. I think I have quite a few issues with it, and I've been thinking. I've had this thought in my head bubbling the last few weeks, and I feel like I can vocalize it now, which is that I feel like this show is like often like there's a lot of twists or like story beats or something, and like on paper I like what they're going for, but then I feel like the execution of those scenes, or maybe it's a character involved, isn't there, so it doesn't land as hard. Or there's certain scenes that are really well shot and like good acting and cool effects and all that, but then the twist or the story moment involved with it is not something I'm a fan of. And I feel like this episode was just that back and forth, and so nothing was really completely satisfying for me. There was like always a caveat, and that's kind of how I've been feeling about the last few weeks. So it's too bad that the finale feels the same way for me. I don't think that this is a rushed finale in that sense. There's a couple storylines we don't get, but I think we left off in fine enough places for season 1 last episode. So I don't think it really comes down to that kind of stuff for me. It's just little things. Like I think the writing's pretty weak in certain points. We'll talk about obviously all the twists and turns and all that stuff, but there just wasn't a whole lot in this episode that really landed for me. There's maybe a couple things that I enjoyed, but overall I got to say I'm kind of disappointed. But I don't know. I guess I'm not feeling super let down. I just feel like my expectations based on how the show has been going is I wasn't expecting by the time the season was ending that like, man, I love this. This is on the level of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like that, I just did not expect that, and I'm nowhere near that. And so I guess I'm kind of where I thought I would be, halfway through the season. So I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, I'll keep it there without saying any spoilery stuff.
Well, I'll go next because I feel like I know where Kirklin might be. I never know where Taylor is and stuff like that. But I'll go because I'm the exact opposite, where I feel like I was somebody lower when we began, and each episode we've been climbing. I feel like for the first 15 minutes, this episode was like, okay, each week I've been like, it's as good as last week or better. I wasn't feeling that. I was like, okay, I think this is a solid finale. But man, to me, it ramped up, and I absolutely love this episode. This, I think, bumped it up a whole final score review thing, because there's certain things we know that were coming, but I thought they were done very well. There's things we've talked about that they've been lacing throughout the whole season that I thought they executed well. There's things I didn't want to see happen, and they didn't go that route, so I was happy about that. It felt like, especially the last 15, 20 minutes, man, I got teleported back to the first time I saw Fellowship of the Ring of, fuck, it's ending, and we're going to have so long to wait, and all these characters and these things are going. And I know we're pretty much leading. We know most of the story, and they might change a few things here and there, but I just think, man, I cannot wait to see where we pick up. I loved the reveals. I loved the characters we did have. I thought they were all paced well. The show always just looks beautiful, so that's kind of like a bare minimum thing. But I absolutely loved this finale. I had a great time with it. I thought it had great resolutions, but a lot of good cliffhanger-ish type of moments. And I just thought we got some stuff like fan service in the best way possible. Now, again, I've not read the books prior to Lord of the Rings, and also those have been since middle school and stuff. So that's where I feel like when I'm watching it, I know even myself, and you can hear Kirklin on my shoulder being like, oh, this shouldn't be happening the way it's happening. But I'm digging it all. I'm digging it. I'm liking everything they're putting down and stuff. I thought this was I think this episode for me was like a 10 out of 10. I'm not going to tell you what the whole series is. Wait till the end of the episode, but this was really delivered. Man, I know they're filming season 2 right now, which probably means we're not going to get to 2024, which is just a fucking bummer, but I can't wait. And especially, like I said, go back to episode 1 where I was enjoying the show, but I think I was actually the most lowest on. So big turnaround for me. So Taylor Field, where are you on the Rings of Power finale?
I really, really quite enjoyed this. I think that while I still have a ton of questions overall about about things, I do feel like, okay, we got not even really conclusions. I feel like, as far as, yes, you said we're getting season 2, which thank God, I'm super, super jazzed for that. But for a finale, we kind of got things wrapped up in. The chef has prepped the meal has been put on the plate, and the waiter is now bringing it to us. And I feel like that's what season 2 is going to be like, and it really has me excited. So everything that we got in this episode, I was really jiving with, and I think the score really helped too, because for most of this episode, when the score was kicking in, I was just like, this is good.
Cranking the volume. Just
Oh,
standing in front of
yeah.
the speaker,
Trying to
Willem
sleep.
Dafoe in The Lighthouse. You're in front
Well,
of the
Madison
speaker.
was awake with me. I kept trying to I kept telling her things tidbits of information about the episode, and then because I was trying to figure out certain components.
Has she seen the other episodes, or has she just been in and out of
She's seen the other ones. This is her first episode. Yeah.
Well,
No,
I wasn't sure if it's one of those where it's on the background. She kind of knows what's going on, but you're like, oh, this is this guy and this guy.
No,
I think
Yeah,
it was
she's-
Shay's first episode, so it was an
There you
interesting
go.
time
Oh
for
my
her to
goodness.
jump in.
But yeah, I'm super high on this episode right now.
Kirk and Patzer, the Mad King.
I'm gonna bring back the deflated feeling
Yeah.
that Dylan was spewing earlier.
That was a good way to go.
Yeah, I'm so interested in seeing how I feel after a rewatch of the entire series, because at this point, I think this is definitely my least favorite episode of the entire series, and to end the show, or the first season, on that note is definitely unfortunate. But I feel like it's not even completely this episode's fault, because there's just been these canon switch ups that they haven't completely confirmed nor denied in earlier episodes, but they just kept pushing it back to we'll deal with that next week's episode. And I feel like we got not all of them in this episode, but definitely for me this was the most jarring canonically. I think that's the way you say that. To me at least, again, people have been complaining about the canon switch ups since the get go, and I feel like maybe it's just because I had more episodes next week maybe they'll explain it a little bit better. But I feel like again, like we just they really confirmed some things in this episode, and it just kind of, that they're doing what they got to do. They're making they're making what changes they think is necessary to make like the
They're
best story
adapting.
that they want to tell. Yeah, exactly. They're adapting, which is completely fine. It's just unfortunate that I'm not completely jiving with it, but overall, like, I definitely like give credit to the whole team that made the show, because it's just visually beautiful. Acting has been, for the most part, like really stellar, and I definitely think that they're giving a good credit to Tolkien's works, and a lot of people think otherwise. But for me, at least, I think they definitely, just spreading the word of Tolkien's works. And it's just awesome. So I love it. I love that we're in 2022. We have like new Lord of the Rings type things coming out. So that's awesome. But unfortunately for me, this episode just, I felt like a deflated, tired winner, just trying to like trug along those roads, and I was just totally steering off, and like, there is some moments that I will definitely applaud, because I did really like, just I think like what would be the West, like logistically how they tackle it, or like how they actually did certain scenes. I'm excited to talk about specifically at the end, because like the end was just totally getting me there. But yeah, for a big stretch of this episode, I was just, oh no, and I hadn't really had those feelings throughout the show. But yeah, without just repeating myself, I'll pass it along.
Well, there you go. I would say tune into spoilers, because I think it's going to be a spicy conversation. So if you've not seen it, go watch it. Come back. We'll be here. We're going to take our first ad break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So, Kirklin, I want to let you lead the way. I want to let you go.
Okay.
Where are we gonna go first? I feel
Follow your
like I
nose.
know. I feel like I know. Yeah, follow your nose.
Well,
fuck yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
When he said that, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go.
so yeah, there's
Gandalf's
definitely
back, baby.
there's definitely a couple moments that again just had me like sighing, but I think the most egregious one was like 5 minutes into this episode, with the Wanderer being like, oh, he's Sauron, and it's just like, no, I can't believe we're doing this here. And we did get that switch up at the end, like it's not actually Sauron, it's Gandalf, or what he was before he got that name. But it was just like, to be going from that point throughout the whole episode, I was salty. I'm like, this is actually our Sauron. Like, I'm gonna be thinking of this guy when I get to the Peter Jackson films. Like, this is just, it's bugging me so much. I did not like it at all.
Were you worried they were gonna like retcon it and just make Sauron a good guy now and have a new different enemy?
Fuck yeah,
I
let's
didn't
go.
I didn't
Sauron,
know.
Aragorn,
I didn't know,
teaming
because at this point, like, Halbrand's still there. I'm like, fuck, he might slide into Galadriel's bed sheets or something. I'm worried. Like,
Oh, he wanted
like
to.
if we
Oh,
have the
yeah.
stranger Sauron here, like I have no hope now. So
See,
Yeah,
this
it's like, is that the journey of the show is going to be, that we're going to see 5 seasons of this guy turning evil and becoming that Sauron that we would expect?
No, he's Gandalf, man. We're
new
here.
stranger.
Yeah, like, see, for me, that's what I love, because the whole season, I feel like maybe there's like a 5% of someone else, but it was always back and forth between these two, right? And it's more back
Yeah.
and forth about if Halbrand was that. But I feel like even from episode 1, we had it. But this is where I like the show, and the showrunners, I think, and the writers did a good job of every week trying putting something that would confuse. Because I feel like episode 1, we talked about this guy's likely is some sort of wizard, and Halbrand's likely Sauron, or the first 2 episodes, And then the preceding weeks, they do something that would make you go the other route. And then it'd be like, we talked about that chase, and a big shout out to I'll get your name, but they gave us a nice 5-star review on Apple iTunes. Thank you very much. You talked about his theory, and he was right about Halbrand. And he was talking about how we were talking about when I brought up they did that camera editing of him making it look like he was chasing Galadriel, and then he wasn't, but he really was. Like, that's what I like, that the whole series was back and forth between these two, and the final episode they're going to give you one last switcheroo, because you can't do that. Once you reveal the trick, you can no longer play the who is it, the mystery card. That's what I like, that both we know the stranger is Gandalf, and we know Halbrand is Sauron, and we don't have to do that next season. That's what I like. I think if they would have carried it on till next year, I think it would have been like, okay, this is tiresome, but I thought that was the perfect way to go. And I guess I just didn't believe it too, because you get the Sauron thing, but then almost 10 minutes in, Halbrand's like acting super shady again, or Galadriel thinks he's acting shady. It's like, okay, this is just a good red herring. So for me, I loved the whole red herring that Gandalf was Sauron in this episode, and yeah, I like it.
Those twists are like the perfect explanation of what I was saying in the non-spoilers of like the Halbrand thing. I've just not been into that character the whole time. So now that that's the
Yeah.
big bet, I'm like, oh, great. Like this guy that I don't care about, not big fan of the acting, to be honest, and not like his journey that much. Feels like he's just kind of shoehorned into random scenes. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'll have to kind of report back on season 2, and now that we know who he is, like how they're going to play that. And
Plus,
then,
he
yeah,
might play the role differently too in season 2, right? As like the full-on bad guy, like not trying to be
Yeah.
mysterious bad guy. So maybe he might have like a strength there as an actor. It's just being like your bad boy, you know.
Yeah, I
Okay.
hope so. And then, for Gandalf, I'm just going to call him that now. Man, I don't know. That whole sequence for me was just like really poorly done. I think that's why that maybe didn't have as much impact for me. What are we calling those, like the disciples of Sauron? Like, what are we going to call
That's a great name for them. The disciples of Sauron.
That's
They
kind of
remind
like
me
it.
of just ring wraiths again, but they're obviously not that. But they looked like it.
They could
That's
just be like
not a ring
heralds,
wraith,
like
man.
No,
heralds
like
of
they're
Sauron,
ghost form though.
the
that reminded me
acolytes, something
of
like
it.
that.
They were too
Oh,
sexy.
definitely.
That one, the main one that was Eminum. First, I saw Eminum. Now I saw Lust Trap, because there's many times where she like put her leg out and the dress is parting. I was like, what's going on here? I was very confused. He's very
I feel like I
Trying to
totally
tempt
missed that part.
Sauron.
oh that there's a lot of cleavage
Don't
going on.
tempt
I was
me,
like, I was very confused by the evil forces Sauron was sending my way. I was like, wow, So, but
The
yeah,
armor was definitely like very tight to the skin, except for the
Yeah.
boobs. So
Yeah.
I see what you mean. But I don't know, like that. Did that sequence not feel weird to you? Where there's like the chasing the apple around. It's like what are they doing here? Like what is the goal of the disciples here by like kicking around this apple and like toying him into this corner? Like I feel like I was missing something, because that just seemed really strange to me. You guys?
Well,
have
when
an
they were doing
explanation?
that was before they knew for sure he was Sauron, right? So I feel like they were just acting on it. Okay, he's Sauron. He's been mind wiped. We're just trying to figure ways to trigger that at him. That's how I got it. Because the second they realized he was not Sauron, they were going to go for the attack, but he fucking popped off and was turning the butterflies and everything. So that's how I took it, is that they were just kind of delaying and trying to figure out how do we get this guy back to what he's supposed to be. And I don't necessarily know like what the apple's going to do. I'm sure it might represent some stuff, but that's how I took it. It's like, okay, how do we subdue this guy and deal with him and get him back to our, Dark Lord?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Taylor, do you have anything to add in here with the other
What's
Sauron
your apple theory? I
or,
need your apple
or
theory.
whoever?
Apple theory. Definitely weren't any worms in that apple. It was a mint apple. But as far as the whole alluding to them just like taking it and just running off, I don't have any kind of I don't have much I can add to that aside from them just being a dick. Because I mean, it's just why they lured him around to this little corner like nook. I don't understand. Like, I don't know really what's going on, but I was in for it, and I was like, "Oh, who the fuck's this new character stealing the apple?" And then, "Oh, that's not Nori. I don't believe that." And
Is that what
Oh,
you're
I
telling
love that
Madison?
change up when she put the thing up and then she came back up and she was the Eminum character. Really fun. Yeah.
what was your question, Kirklin?
Is that what you were telling Madison when you're just describing the bullies?
It's like, I
with
don't know what the
apple?
fuck's going
Yeah.
on right now, Madison.
Another
She's like, I
thing
don't
I
know.
feel like I didn't understand was like why they locked, like why they tied the arms of one of them up to the tree. Was that like a bait?
That was
I don't-
Yeah, it was
Definitely
a
a
bait.
good trap.
Because
Oh,
they
yeah.
walked over and then Sadak, what was his name, right? Saduk, who the
Sadak.
Sudoku.
yeah.
Yeah, who's gone now. Yeah, that's all it was just to get them out. And then because the second that happens, he like, looks up and he's evil Gandalf, kind of smiling. He hit this, so it was just a trap.
It was a good trap. It fooled me.
It
'Cause
worked.
When
They
the
got
feet,
Sadak.
they found like the
They got Sadak.
wanderer in the grass. I was like, oh, who's this guy? Who's this like third party character?
And like when they threw the knife at Sadak, I completely expected him to move, Gandalf to do something. Nope, kill them. I was like, fuck. Yeah, which
Well,
is fine 'cause
no,
I
it
didn't-
took several hours, and like
Yes.
no one at any point ever looked at his wound. He just accepted death without.
He wanted
like,
to go. He wanted to go. He wanted to see his wife. Remember, that's what he said. He's ready to go off trail. He
He's
didn't
given
wanna
up
go.
since the
Yeah.
carts blew
Remember?
up.
Yeah, you remember
Last
even
week's
last
episode.
week he said we're dead. We're dead. We're dead. So
Yeah,
he-
that is true.
This was
yeah.
a suicide mission for him. Really, no. With like what you're saying, Dale. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of silly. Even then, I was like, Gandalf doesn't have any magic to heal this fucking wound.
I know
but
he's just over there watching this guy die.
yeah,
He's like, I could
thanks.
totally save this guy.
Yeah, he didn't like him either. He's like, you didn't believe Nori at first.
yeah.
I'm gonna be very nitpicky that episode. I apologize in advance. But another nitpick for that sequence when they're like, I just want to sit down and watch the sunrise, and they sit down, and like a second later, it's like, oh, it's like fully daytime now. And I got like I don't know his
Middle
acting,
Earth.
like closing the eyes and dying.
real bad.
God, like
Yeah.
this character's been in the show a lot. I should care when he dies, but I was like, God, the whole just execution of this whole sequence was like horrible for me. So unfortunately, none of that really had the impact it should have had. Unfortunately.
I can agree with you there. And even when I said this episode was a 10 out of 10, I don't like. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It's 10 out of 10 because I loved my enjoyment. But the death acting was not good. And I think it's just because for most of the series he was not a mysterious character, but he's talking about his little map and whatnot. But I feel like he was always opposing our main hobbits, and then in these last series, like, well, let's go on this venture together. So I just feel like we didn't get enough time to really learn with him. So I could give you that yeah, his death was like, even then he's like like, I just want to watch it. He died right away. The sun came up right away. They didn't let that scene kind of hang there at all, and I was like, okay, I guess, which is fine because I didn't care about him. But yeah, as a delivery, it wasn't the greatest.
I guess a question for Kirklin, with the leader disciple, the one who's like using all these powers. What's going on there? Like, is this a wizard as well, or why? How can this character use all these crazy powers?
It's a great question. I would imagine it's just bestowed from Sauron, like just a worshiper of a dark force. You must have some trade off or like some job benefits for joining his side, I would imagine. Because like I've never experienced a character that can do that. It's only kind of been the wizards that shoot magic from my understanding. I know like Sauron definitely has like magic powers. It's never really been portrayed in this sense, and the overall magic throughout the show has been very different from what I've like come to know, the way that the magic's kind of handled in Tolkien. Like visually, it was awesome to see, but it felt a little too flashy for flashy's sake, just to get like a big climactic moment. And so like my favorite part about the magic in Tolkien lore is it's not all about that flash. It is like the power and like the command that the user is issuing into the world to make these changes happen. But here it's just like making leaves go, and like like I said, like I did like it visually, but it was just like, okay, this is veering off the trail here.
Gotcha. Did we see them use magic without the staff? Because I feel like that was the main source. As soon
Just
as
like
Gandalf got that.
Like he did like the
the
embers,
gonna make the
right?
leaves and the F fire and stuff like that. So they definitely have some of it.
Pyroed the
You're right though.
Kirks
Most of the like with the telekinesis and all that good jazz, that was all with the with that staff.
Which is just gone now, and stuff like that. Evaporated.
I told you
Gandalf's
to
gonna have to
take
get
the
his
wizard
own.
stuff.
Well, I was curious too because Run, what was the name of the place?
Rune.
Yeah. So, we talked about how these there's other wizards to the east. I was thinking would these characters be related to the wizards to the east? I know we're assuming that if Gandalf just dropped it this time, that it's like Battle Royale style, like all the wizards dropping at the
all
same
the players
time.
are joining.
But we haven't seen any of their meteors and stuff. So
Yeah.
that was a thing I was thinking about. But I feel like if they just killed off another wizard randomly, that would be kind of a strange choice to not make that feel like a bigger impact. But I'm just trying to, because you're right, Kirkland. I don't have as great of an understanding of the lore, but like whatever the concept of magic in my head is for Middle Earth, this felt like very different than what I've seen before, which, to be clear, is fine. They can make changes, but I just feel like I have more questions, and now this character is dead, and we'll probably never hear from them ever again. So I just don't feel like I got answers, and I don't think we ever will.
It's definitely not a wizard. I'll give you that much. It's definitely just like a random acolyte of dark.
I thought, is this
forces.
gonna be Saruman? Like, is there are they setting this up early?
Gender swap, Saruman.
I'm down with that. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Did you guys find it intriguing how they turned into the moths? And I just immediately thought like, oh, Gandalf calls upon them for aid, later on to call the eagles or something like that. I don't know. It might just be random.
Or the
but-
moths.
I didn't
from-
I didn't think of any connection, but I thought of the same thing you did, Tanner, like
Okay.
that imagery and everything like that.
I didn't like it at all. It was very much just to be like, remember who dealt with moths, people? It's Gandalf. We can't say his name, so this must
but
be him.
Can they not say his? They can say his name though, right? Like in the future.
They must. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
okay.
imagine.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the moth thing and the follow your nose, there are still millions of people around the world that watch this and still don't know it's Gandalf. I promise
you're
you
right.
that.
It's like for me, like to my knowledge, the moths have no real like big magical purpose of that, other than like I think it is just like the one particular moth that like Gandalf has like communicated with to get to like Guahir. Like that was his walkie-talkie on how he escaped Orthanc. So it's really like, oh, remember who dealt with the moth? Like that's just the way that I took it. Maybe
Or
I
you
was
can look
reading
at it
into
as
a
these
little
are the
bit too
early
much.
origins as far as a moth
could
is something
be.
that represents Gandalf and the things he uses. You
Yeah.
know? It's like a symbol for him. It's a legacy token, you know.
Yeah, who knows? And again, visually it looked cool, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
the overall like idea of the use of it was going against my beliefs.
I was gonna say for the magic I didn't talk upon that. I guess I was fine with it because I know this is not token stuff. So people watching anything, listening, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying why I've been fine with it. Is like when I played stuff like Shadow of War and that type of magic is very much in there. But even stuff like Gandalf, he's given his spells. But even like he slams his staff down at the Balrog Fellowship, there's like a big like ripple effect and stuff like that. So I think this is to the nth degree. It's definitely higher up. But I feel like you could see some of these characters pop off like that if you really wanted to, you know?
Do you think we'll see more of that in the coming seasons? Just more characters using magic in a more straightforward, like noticeable way?
I think like this lightly, like in an episode. I don't think now next season Gandalf's going to be popping off. I don't think when we meet Sauron or if they fight, they're going to be popping off. I think it's going to be in very specific small amounts. And not even because budget, they don't need that. I just think that they'll try and make it feel somewhat special. Because if you overdo it with the Gandalf wizard character, it might be like, okay, it's just magic now, you know? And plus he still has to, I feel like, learn this stuff. And now I can't wait because I feel like we're going to have to, at some point, maybe meet Radagast and meet Saruman. And we got to meet those blue wizards, you know? We got to have an episode of Gandalf just going there having
Give
a
me
good
the
time.
blue wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually disagree with Travis. I think they are gonna even ramp up more than what we got in this episode, and I don't like that idea. Again, like it's just the whole magic used in like the entire trilogy. I feel like wasn't really as much of what was shown here, like at least visually. Like I know like there's more scenes of them using magic in that sense, but
They cut the fireball from the theatrical cut, you know. Giant
Yeah.
Saruman fireball.
That's true. That is a big magical thing though. That fireball, you know, and like I know it's not the
not
same
work.
thing, but I feel like it didn't. But it's still a thing, and like I know it's not the exact same because it's like dark magic. But even in a sense, like when Frodo puts on the ring, to me that's like some high crazy magic realm stuff going on.
Fair
You know,
enough.
that's where it's like, okay, this is way out of the realm. So I think they were definitely more quiet with it, but I think they also need that in this show, like big magic moments, because we got that big battle last week, but this is also a 10-hour thing, right? Where in a movie, you could use maybe one scene for that big magic, because that's 2 hours, okay, 3, sometimes 4 hours, but it's a little more lightly, and there's lots of battles, where this, you could be right, they might use more magic, but that's just because I think that, okay, you're going to have a lot of content, so let's do some things, but I don't think they're going to go banana sandwich yet. Final season, I'll raise you that. I think they could be popping off a lot.
Dragons coming in, all that.
100%.
Another reason why I was like, man, is this Saruman? Is because of that power where the character picked up Gandalf and was like spinning him around, and then threw him into the rock wall, which looks, you know, exactly like when he gets thrown into the doorway. So I don't know. I didn't know if it was supposed to be just a reference to that, or if it was Saruman using that, and who knows how the journey would go from this version of Saruman to become a version that we're more familiar with. But that's another reason too, is just that seemed like very much intentionally calling back to that kind of fight from when does that happen? Is that's Two Towers?
Fellowship.
Fellowship?
Yeah. Which it could also just be like a Easter egg red herring tribute thing, right? Because that's thinking with the moth, where this show's in such a weird place where it is technically not a prequel to the Peter Jackson trilogy, but boy, does it want to be a prequel to like the Peter Jackson trilogy, because they did this a little bit in The Hobbit, but man, I know I'm jumping to the very end, but when we got the end credits and they had a fucking original song, I was like, this is just the Jackson trilogy. That I see them light. It was just like this song was I couldn't believe it. Just like singing about the rings. I was like, turn on the subtitles.
It was the prophecy.
Yeah, it's the prophecy.
It was the ring prophecy.
Just
song. Yeah.
But see, and that's where you guys were maybe down for that. I was like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to be blaring this in my headphones more. This is awesome. But
see the light.
But like each Jackson trilogy ended with an original piece of music, and it's this whole tale about the movie, and that's where it's like, this is that, and this is where they want to be that, but they don't they can't legally be that. But I think they are pretty much being you could watch this. To me, I could watch this, and we'll see what happens when it ends, if it could like really line up with Jackson's trilogy, because that's where it's like they still might go different places. But as of right now, even with the liberties that he took, especially with the Hobbits, I feel like this can easily line up as like fits right in as a prequel to Fellowship. You know, I'm not gonna count Hobbit, prequel to Fellowship and stuff like that. But fuck yeah, that song, brilliant, love it, love that we got that, awesome. I guess we actually didn't say
before you went to the back. Yeah.
Well, we're
I
still
feel
in
like I had
Magic,
more
but
to
I gotta
throw in
just
there.
ask you, Kirk, because I don't think we even talked about. How do you just feel in general though about it being Gandalf, and now knowing season 2 Falling Adventures,
Yeah.
we're following Gandalf now.
And
In
that,
Ori.
that reminds me of where I was going. So perfect, bringing me back to the Wizards. Yeah, I mean, again, like this is something that's completely different from like the original arrival of the Astari, which should be arriving in the year 1000 of the Third Age. We're still in the Second Age, so obviously they're early. But like I don't know, I like early on in the show when we were speculating who the stranger was, I was just super hard against like, no, it can't be Gandalf for XYZ reasons. Like, no, it's bad. But the more I've just been like exposed to the show and in a positive sense, you know, just like I can get climatized to what they're going and like the direction of it. It's like, okay, like this honestly this is fine because the Astari is supposed to be sent there when Sauron is rising to power, and guess what happens at the end of this episode? He arrives in Mount Doom. Again, it's still a little early, but like just to make the story work, it's for me it's digestible. It's not like something that I just spew up instantly. You know, I can sit on. It's not my favorite meal, but I can eat it. Gives me some nutrients. So I'm okay with it. I'm very intrigued on just when, and that's not if, that's a when we see the other Astari. And you know you're getting Saruman. You got to be getting these other ones. And
Yes,
especially
you
now
have
that
to.
especially now that they've just dropped like Rune and like to the east so many times, like I'm really
Yes.
hopeful that we actually travel there because I've never seen it. I really don't know what it's like there other than just some really cool warriors come from, or like cool looking warriors. You know, they're evil men, but still they look badass, and the Oliphants and all that stuff. I can't remember if the Oliphants are specifically in Rune or maybe more south of that, but still, just there's so many unanswered things in the east, including our 2 blue wizards that I don't know if they landed there or if they landed somewhere else and just traveled there eventually. But yeah, I'm very like pretty confident that we are going to be seeing more Astari with, you know, wizards. And I don't think like all of them all at once. Like I don't think we're getting Radagast and Saruman being like, hey Gandalf, we were waiting for you. But
No, but sprinkled
there. And I think the next one, I don't know. Maybe I'll ask you guys that. Like, who do you think would be the next first wizard? You got a question.
I have a question. With the blue wizards, you said 2?
Yeah, there's 2 blue wizards. So
I thought
5
there was
total.
Twins,
more.
right?
So
I'm not sure.
when we're
Maybe.
making our orgy
they're all
jokes,
twins.
how are we making orgy jokes if there's just 2 of them? It's just 2 people.
I
That's
just
not an
assumed you were
orgy.
talking about like with the locals, just the locals.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I
fair
assumed
enough.
too.
They're getting
Yeah.
the twins are having a good time.
They're organizing it. Yeah.
Anyways, blue wizards is my answer. I think you saved Saruman for last.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dylan, what do you think?
I
Do you think we're getting wizards? Are you as strong on it as I am, or do you think they'll just keep it with Gandalf?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so at this point. I mean, I guess to go back slightly too, I'm glad that we got the official confirmation. I mean, we've all been feeling that way, obviously, for weeks, even since the beginning, potentially. But I'm glad that we got the confirmation, even if they didn't say his name. You know, they confirmed it, so that's fun. But yeah, I really want to see the Blue Wizards because I have no concept of them really. I just hear the rumors through the grapevine from the lore fans. So I want to have my own perspective of them. I want to see them. And I really, really want Radagast because I just want to see that character done again.
Yes.
And I liked Radagast in the Hobbit movies. I know it's kind of an outlier opinion, but I like enough what's there. So
You
I
fit really
wanna see
well
that.
too with like the Harfoots and stuff too. I feel so.
Mhm.
Yes, he's dirty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Saruman, you got to have him in there at some point. But I think Travis is right. You know, that's a good character to leave later on because I mean, coming down to it, like how many more Lord of the Rings characters from the movies, you know, that could they do? Like who else would be alive from this time era?
Who are they
Um,
legally allowed to do too? You know, like
yeah,
thing,
that's
like,
the bigger question.
I'm sure there's certain characters you couldn't introduce in this and stuff like that. You know, like any like could you like go far back and eventually like I'm not saying this ties into Gandalf's story, but can you introduce a descendant of Boromir's line, or is it like well Boromir
Right.
specifically in those books? Like he's not mentioned in the Hobbits, and they might mention Gondor and stuff in the Silmarillion, but they're not like talking about fucking Denethor and stuff like that. So I feel like the wizards are the big ones, and I feel like just if we weren't getting Gandalf in season 1, I'd say I don't know. The fact that we're getting Gandalf, like the wizard, some people's favorite, like I'd say if you make a list of people's favorite Lord of the Rings characters, he's always gonna be in the top 3
Yeah.
for just majority. The fact that we're getting him season 1, to me, wizards is a no doubt. But the rest of the characters, I really don't know.
I mean, you're from the rights perspective. That's a good point too of why the Blue Wizards could be a good route to go. But I also think they would just have more freedom there. Of they can do whatever they want. They can do what the story needs without pissing people off. Obviously, the lore heads are going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
But I think that is a a very vocal minority when it comes to people watching this show or checking it out or talking about it. Which I'm not trying to discredit that because I want those people to enjoy the show as well. But I think there's just less baggage there, even in terms of just casting, right? Like, oh, now when I see this person they cast as Saruman, doesn't look at anything like what's his name, Christopher Lee. So it's like,
Yeah.
that already changes people's perspectives. But if the Blue Wizards are already a mysterious thing that most probably Lord of the Rings fans don't even know that's a thing, right? They've just never heard of that before until you talk to the lore fans. So I think that's a good route to go. And I'd be curious to see what kind of stories they would want to tell with those characters and the reasons they would bring them into the story.
No.
Taterfield.
I feel like Gandalf just being on this kind of soul-searching identity crisis path right now, trying to learn himself, it only makes sense to either come into contact with an Astari that's already established and already knows their position in Middle-earth, or Gandalf is that character who becomes, that wise one. He learns of his position and what he has to do, and then more Astari come, and then he kind of coaxes them in, and we get to learn from those newcomers, like the Blue Wizards and stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool. I totally think we're gonna get them, and I really want to see them. I'm with you, Dylan. I liked Radagast in the Hobbit films, just especially because it's just cool to see another wizard in Middle Earth doing stuff. And there's still so much that we can explore with that, and this is definitely the show to do it. So let's do it.
Well, you know what we should do?
That's right.
Take another ad break. We'll do that. And we're back. Anything else more to talk on?
Yeah, some final
Gandalf?
thoughts on Gandalf.
Just hand in
He's
his face,
back.
so
I
stressed.
just love it. I love it. I got Gandalf back.
Yeah,
you know?
it's great. I love Gandalf. He's arguably like my favorite Lord of the Rings character.
And we've gone over when we talk about the Embracer Group, like a quick tease for our conversation. We're like, man, doing a Gandalf solo film is gonna be hard because you gotta do that casting. Well, this guy gets to be the fucking first one to like step up to bat. So it's like if he sucks, everyone be like, well, hopefully they get a better guy than this guy. And so far, what I've seen, even though it's funny, episode 1, I was like, I thought he was Saruman just because he looks like Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
What I've seen from the guy, I like him as an actor, so I think he's gonna have a fun rendition with Gandalf when he just gets more and more.
And like adding on to what you just finished saying there, like there was a moment when he was talking to oh my gosh, Nori. That's her name. And I like the way he was talking, like huge credit to the actor. He was like giving an effort to sound like Ian McKellen.
Yes,
and it like
100%.
it was working for me. I'm like, okay, like
His
I'm
cadence,
I'm
his
not
speech
loving
pattern,
like the whole choice to bring him here, but I gotta give credit where credit's due, because just like you said, his speech patterns and it just sounded like how Ian McKellen would talk as Gandalf. So
It's maybe
just
some of that
huge
adventure
credit.
when he's like a journey's for solo, but an adventure's
Yeah.
for 2, and it's like that's something Gandalf would be saying to Frodo. They'd be hard panning him and it'd be like,
Yeah.
just saw what the time was given to you. Like that's exactly like
You just
oh,
needed
man.
a pipe and blowing
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
some smoke rings. That's
She'll
all
get
you
him
needed.
one next season. Like, what do you
Yeah.
want to spend money on? The blanket or the pipe? Pipe. She's like, I know
Looking
you
like
can
a homeless
speak
man,
normal.
but gotta get a pipe. Yeah. So again, like just like the lines sounded like how Gandalf is written as a character, but the delivery of it was another thing altogether. And yeah, it was great there. So like for if I'm going forward and it's like thinking about if this guy can, or let me rephrase that. Any issue that I have with the Gandalf usage, it's not going to be on the actor, I think, because it's
That's
definitely good performance there. I did think that he became like Gandalf that I recognized like way too quickly, from being the point where like he didn't even
Sure.
know what he was or like what his name was. Like they called me Sauron, and then like after that moment, he's like just giving Gandalf advice. And again, like this is that same being, right? Like I forget what his name was before he came to Middle Earth, but like he was a being before then. So like it's not like he's a fresh baby on Miller. Like he does have some wisdom already, so that's fine. I just felt like to have it in this same episode again. It's tough when
was
it's
quick.
the finale. Yeah, it was quick there, and I would have liked it obviously to be tackled a little bit differently. But what are you gonna do in a finale? We're not getting an epilogue episode.
I think it's cool too how for people that are familiar and really like that OG Jackson trilogy, and we're getting these subtle little lines and mentions from Gandalf, just familiarity. Because as soon as he said like, oh, when always follow your nose, like I was off my couch like just jumping for joy.
yeah.
I was so excited for that, and I think that's great because that's capturing that older community that grew up with those films and likes those films and is really in love with that Gandalf character and the portrayal as well by the actor. So now when we get little bits of seeds of that in this new portrayal of Gandalf, but then also a fresh dose of this new spin on the character as well, while trying to adhere to the originality of the character and Gandalf himself. I think it's great because now it's allowing new fans to latch on to this character. So it's taking a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new, and having a nice segue forwards.
Yeah, there's another line too where I could be reading into it a little bit too much, but I felt like it was very mirror image of the line that he gives to Frodo about again, I'm gonna butcher this
Are you
paraphrasing.
doing the
but
time one?
he ends with like, we don't like all we can do is what to focus our time with right now in this life. Yeah,
All
you
we
know what
can
I'm going.
do is with the time that is given to us.
I should have just thrown it to you. You're
Like
nailing
butter
these Lord of the
scraped
Rings
over
quotes.
too much bread.
That's how I feel trying to
Run,
deliver these
Frodo!
quotes.
No.
Yeah, run, Kirklin, Becca. But like it was something along the lines like you just got to focus on like where you're gonna place your feet next, and it like that's what again he was delivering that to Nori. It just sounded very samesies, and I liked it. For the most part, it was like, oh, I know what they're doing. They're just trying to remind me of those awesome quotes.
And this is where I got to bring up, and Jason, I thank you for tuning in, but your quote is, the people that are in love with Gandalf from the old movies are not happy he's Gandalf in the show. You got
Eating
two
two of 'em
fucking
right
right here.
here.
And that's where it's like, you may say that on your timeline, but I guarantee you the people that are not the token people that have only seen the movies be like, oh, cool, that's Gandalf. And now they have like a touch on it.
Yeah.
And again, most of them probably don't know. They're going to wake up to a Facebook article and be like, oh, that was, like, or there's going to be like some nerd like us at work be like, no, like when he said the nose thing, that means he's Gandalf. And they're like, oh, okay, why didn't they just call him Gandalf? Well, it's this weird, like, that's where it's just like,
Fucking nerd.
I definitely get the sentiment. I could see like, oh, the majority of people, but I don't buy that for the general audience that, oh, fuck, this guy's Gandalf. Like, I think that will be the reverse for the GA of get them even
Yeah.
more interested in this show. For Tokyo, sure, but again, I love Gandalf in the movies, and I'm excited. I was a little, what is the best word to
Apprehensive.
apprehensive, reluctant when even the first episode you're like, he might be Gandalf. I was like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like that's a really bold thing to do season one. Like, we already got Elrond and Galadriel, who are two big characters. To do Gandalf now, it's like, that's where is the worry. It's like The Hobbit now, where we are getting into, okay, there's a lot of these characters that tie in these, main stories that come up, but hey, whatever.
We
If
all
it
know what
sucks,
happens
it's-
between Gandalf and Galadriel.
Oh
so,
yeah, it's coming,
we're gonna
Dylan. They're gonna, that's why Halbrand's out of the way. Galadriel's gonna fall for
Celeborn's still kicking
No,
somewhere.
he's dead, Kirklin. He's dead. Last time she saw him. Do we have anything on Gandalf?
Let's move on.
I was gonna say let's talk about Norin. This Harfoot quickly. Obviously, we lost him. That happened. I really like the Norin send off scene. The scene, it's definitely because like I'm a father of 3 daughters probably, but the scene with her dad of like, I've taught you nothing, and she just repeats like 5 things that he said over his life. That was heartwarming. And man, I wanted them. I hate that I sound like this, but I wanted them just to rip off Fellowship and Poppy to go with them, because I was like, when she ran back, because from episode 1, that's been my favorite thing. I don't know if it's my favorite thing now, but episode 1 and a few weeks after, I love Poppy and I love Nori's relationship. So when Poppy didn't go, I was like, damn it, I really want her to go. But she did that line of, you better come back. And I do think Nori will come back and everything like that. So that's where it's interesting. I liked the goodbye. I liked the, hey, it's very similar to Bilbo and Frodo when they get back, but it's almost reverse of just, this isn't your life. Like, you don't want to be here. Even that last episode or two, and she's like, I'll just give up those hopes and dreams. Like, I'm nothing special. And her mom was kind of like, this is not you. So I like that. Again, I think like Kirkland's talking about, where it's strange because hobbits are supposed to be like, until Bilbo, not really that out and open. But I think it kind of fits with the through line of some hobbits. They just got this sense of adventure in them. And one thing I'll throw over, because it was back to the fans, sure, I can see being a casual interest in exciting Gandalf. Have you guys read the books? Taylor has not, but I have, and I'm not read every single token to knowledge, but if you're just talking about the Gandalf books where he's in, Fellowship to Return of the King, yeah, I've read those. And I guess I'm the same thing why it's just an adaptation, because again, if it sucks, it's like, well, I got the books and I got Ian. It's like, I'm down to see what they do with it. Let's get funky. But I liked everything they did with Nori and the send off, and I'm happy that her and him are together, because they got a good back and forth.
I agree. Do you guys think we'll see the Harfoots like next season and stuff, or are we kind of just, we're gonna see Nori and her adventure, but not the rest of them? Because I don't know what they do with them, but
I don't think next season. No.
maybe
I
when
hope
Nori
we
comes
check
back
in
or
on
something.
like Poppy, just because I really like that character. But
Yeah,
I don't know if I
that's
just
fair.
really like that character because of her dynamic with Nori. But the overall Harfoots, I feel like will like, for myself, they would be missed if I don't see them at all next season. But I don't think you're wrong, Travis.
I think you could be right about a solo Poppy episode, though, or something. If they somehow connect with some of our other characters, like for some reason Galadriel's walking the same direction the Harfoots are, and it's like a situation where, remember episode 1 or 2 when they were wearing like those creepy masks, or they look like creepy masks? Like, imagine that, like one of our characters, or like, who's the elf with the potential
Arondir?
child? Yeah, like some of those characters, like you could be going into some other adventure and they like cross paths for an episode and then like separate,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be reading the Similarian, Jason. I'm gonna just enjoy the show for
Yeah.
what it is. Sorry, man.
I'm not even
Guys,
there
this
yet.
guy's moving
Yeah.
goalposts on
yeah,
it.
yeah. That's the thing where it's like, oh, we read this. It's like, and I get it, but that's where we talked about this when the show was being talked, and Ian the creator said this: we're gonna go to a different direction. They fucking set everyone up of, hey, we're not doing a documentary, we're not adapting it, we're gonna change.
Do not
stuff.
read the Silmarillion before the show comes
Yeah,
out.
so if you hate the changes, I'd still say bow out for season 2 and reread the Similarian. So yeah.
It's the Bible.
All right, so we're done with these. Were you going somewhere, Dylan?
Nope.
I want to talk about Hallbrand next, because I want Kirkland's thoughts on this, because we've been through quite a journey with him. So Kirkland, you could happily probably sit
Take
and
the
be
floor.
like, I was going to say
Statement.
that you're not going to have Galadriel and Hallbrand be an item, even though they're hidden the heavy Raylo vibes in this one.
Yeah.
I'm not for this one. Like, I'm not like, the Ray I was for Raylo. No, I don't see anything here. But that's what they're going for. I have some choice words about it, but how did you feel about, because obviously that's the thing you were most worried about last week. Huge red herring with them saying they had feelings for each other, and seems like those feelings, at least on one side, are dead. I don't know.
Man, the moment when he like walks up to her, does the old like brush the hair behind the ear?
He grabbed her
Essentially, I was like,
shoulder.
"Fuck no!" I'd hide my ears there, or
Just
hide my
getting
ears.
on while the rings
Don't-
are being
don't wanna
made.
hear it. Yeah. So I, on one hand, I am glad that my prediction that wasn't gonna happen did go through. She's saving herself for when we find Celeborn again.
Gandalf.
Or Gandalf. No, hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, again, this was another decision where like I like it again.
Say
Like it. I know it bugs me, and like I can't even like give like a valid counter like argument to myself, because it's like, well, don't you want to have like more like development with the character of Sauron? Like Sauron's so like 2D, because all he is just like representing an evil guy. Like he looks badass, but like you don't really know his motivations other than just like the destruction of everything, or like everyone obeying him. So like I understand that argument, but maybe I thought I wanted that, but like now that we're getting this, it's just like, okay, well, if I'm getting this, I'd rather just not learn about Sauron at all and just like live in fear about what his name brings. Because I don't think like this is gonna bring or like bother my Sauron enjoyment like when I am watching those Peter Jackson films. Like I don't think I'm gonna be thinking of like Halbrand like at all of like, oh, there's a very handsome man underneath that armor. Like I'm not gonna be having those thoughts, I think. But we'll see how it goes if like, because I don't think he's putting on the mask for next season. Like I think he is still going to be this actor for the most part, like in this role. And for me, that's not really what I want. And I feel like the fact that they had him like in a air quotes fair form, like his Anatar form, they didn't say that name or anything, but it kind of worries me that I'm not going to be getting that like awesome and like him on Numenor, like corrupting the kings and stuff like that, like as he was as the giver of gifts as Anatar. So I'm a like if. Yeah, I'm a little bit saddened if we're not getting that. Like it could still happen.
Can he not
like,
change form to look like someone
Yep.
else?
He could. Yeah, it is. No, yeah, you're
So maybe
right.
that's how they don't find him. They it sucks for
Maybe.
the actor though. He's like, "Fuck, I got Sauron, and then like, yeah, you're not gonna be him next
They
season."
just put like
but-
a clown nose on him.
But he didn't even say his like I want to stay in Numenor. So I thought that was like kind of
Yeah.
like a subtle like Easter egg to like that would have been my plan in the original canon, but not anymore.
Yeah, considering that
Galadriel.
disciple was changing forms like the weather, I mean, I think
Yeah.
we could see that.
Oh
For
yeah,
him,
no.
too.
It's,
Is that like every season? It's like who's Sauron this season?
Oh
Just
God,
a new
no!
actor.
Please no.
I'll
yeah.
turn then. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Sauron's definitely a shapeshifter though. So you're completely right. It's just I feel like if they did it already in the first season of him like behind
This
enemy
is like
lines,
the canon guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan? How do you feel? Because obviously you've not been a Halbrand fan, so now he is. You know, unless he's shapeshifted into another actor next year, this is our main antagonist going forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about this a lot whenever we saw him, or I guess maybe not originally, but I think maybe the second or third episode that he was in, like, oh, is this Sauron? And so I feel like I've had that a bit in the back of my head, like any scene he's in, I'm thinking about it a little bit, but I feel like I truly have to rewatch the season now, knowing this, of course, and really think about every line of dialogue he's saying and the motivations for stuff, because if I go back through, like if I rewind in my mind and think about all the scenes that I can think of with him in the season, like I don't really see what he's doing, like what he's doing, what he's achieving, what he's trying to do with all these actions he's doing. Obviously he's trying to build a relationship with Galadriel, because I assume because she's so powerful, that would be a great person to have on his side.
It's
and,
Queen.
And yeah, exactly. And he's got, the hots for her too.
Yeah, that's the main reason, Dylan. He just has a hot for her.
But he's doing a lot of other stuff too, and making up all these storylines and the King of the Southlands, all this stuff. So I don't know. And even like some of the stuff with the rings, like I guess he, like, what exactly was he doing there? Because he didn't get a ring on the way out, so he was just, I guess, giving advice on how to make the rings.
Well,
Yeah.
I think his plan was though, but he had to get out of there before Galadriel
Yeah.
ruined it all, right? Like that's like
He was showing a lot of interest with like what Celebrimbor was like working on, so I took it that way,
Couldn't he
and
just,
then
like,
he had to bounce.
Knock Galadriel out and go get his ring and then leave? Because the ring was made like within minutes of him leaving. Essentially,
no.
right?
Well, it was no. I think it was still hours because they showed Elrond pacing, Galadriel time to wake up and everything like that.
Yeah,
And
and
remember
they had to
she's
get
the one
her
that
I mean, I
had
guess
to
he
get
had
the-
made it to Mount Doom. Well, we don't really. He's
Yeah,
pretty far from Mount Doom. It's unclear how much further he has to walk.
He's pretty
come
damn
off.
far.
Okay.
He fast traveled to Mordor. That should have
Yeah.
taken a lot.
Well, we've seen a
longer
lot of
than
fast
what-
travel in this show. That's
Yeah.
clearly a thing already. But I
and
guess
there was also
I guess I'm
Galadriel's
just
idea with the 3 as well. So I think they were still pretty far off from doing the rings.
She
and
she
stuff.
didn't give her dagger up yet, too, did she? 'Cause
Yeah.
that was another
No, she
thing.
didn't.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I guess the rings would not have been made then until they got Galadriel's dagger, which is not a thing he knew. I don't know. I guess a lot of the plot points with him feel messy in my head, but if I went back knowing now what exactly is going on, maybe I would feel differently on it. But yeah, I guess I come down on right here, which is that I was not compelled by his acting through a lot of the season, so I couldn't get super invested in the character. I didn't really like the direction he was going. And for that to be the reveal that he is Sauron is like, doesn't sit right with me. But I am fully ready to give him another shot in season 2. because I think that'll be a very different version of the character where they're not being so cagey with it.
Mhm.
Maybe they are, though. Maybe they do him be in different forms, going around places again. But I do hope we get some like full-on evil Sauron, and where we hear his motivations, what he's trying to do, and I guess we'd probably see him and well, is Adar alive? I can't even remember what happened.
Yeah,
with
he's
him.
just chilling. Like it is a new name. He's still just like
Right,
smoking.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see that connection. We'll see them
Mhm.
have conversations and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see that side of the character. But yeah, as of the end of the season, not completely satisfied.
And that's where too you could get even some flashbacks of the character too, of like his situations with Adar and stuff like that. So it's funny, both of what Dylan said and Kirklin said, they said different but similar points that remind me of a situation that I had in 2002, and I was a
Cool.
young wee lad then. But that's when we had Hayden Christensen cast as Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. Now I'm more on the positive side of I liked the reveal, and I thought they weathered it good throughout. They weaved it, not weathered. What the fuck am I talking about? They weaved it throughout the season good as far as, okay, these are the signs that made sense. It wasn't just like, even in a show we told yesterday where there's just like some big twist. Oh, that's Sauron. You didn't see it coming, right? It's like, well, we didn't see it coming because you didn't give us any breadcrumbs. So it's kind of cheating. So I like that there was a path. I feel like if you rewatch the season, the stuff we had called out that said, hey, this could be Sauron will probably be better on a watch. I am that with Dylan where I don't think the guy is the strongest actor, and that's what reminds me of the Hayden thing, where it's just I'm ready to give it a shot, but I think it is, and like Kirkland was saying, when I think of Sauron, I don't think of Sauron as this guy that was pitching Galadriel to like be his queen and they could be in love and rule the world. Like that's not the Sauron I was kind of thinking of, and like the way he kind of acts there. But again, that's same thing of like that's the risk you do and you flesh out these characters. The same thing as Vader, right? I don't like Sam, the Padme stuff, and the same thing as this is like, okay, you can have Sauron who is just the 2D, he's just evil, right? But then there's the flip side of that, well, that's just boring. He's just evil. How do you make a show of that? If he's not in armor and you're fighting all the time, how do you do that? So for me, my liking of this character through and through, or true and true, will very much depend on next season. I like the setup. The acting is, I think it's sometimes good, sometimes meh, but I think I'm waiting to see, okay, next year if he has no shackles on him and he can just be the bad guy, the antagonist, what can he really do? Because maybe playing the mysterious kind of noble Aragorn could be king guy wasn't his role, and maybe he just couldn't do that. So maybe there's a reason that they cast him, because I feel like for the most of the show, even if they're no-name people, they've casted the show pretty well. So I hope this guy has something that we just haven't got to see yet. And I really actually like because it's just a trope. I liked all the mind trippy stuff he was doing with Galadriel, like sending her in different areas. That's how he's speaking with the brother back on the boat and everything like that. And I like their back and forth. Like I said, I wasn't liking the Raylo vibes, but I was liking the back and forth of what was it, to save Middle Earth, and then she said to rule Middle Earth. Like they kept having a good word association game as far as like, well, from my point of view, Middle Earth needs saving. So there's things, and definitely I think Galadriel carried a lot of it. There's things that I enjoy there, and I'm ready to like it. But talk to me in 2024 when we get the full result. But it was a cool shot. I'm not gonna lie. If I don't think the guy, when we've seen some of the drawings, what Sauron would have looked like. Take that away. When you just go from his back and it's like he has a hood on and you see Mount Doom in the corner, you're like, fuck yeah, like that's cool. And he's walking towards Mount Doom, he's walking towards his destiny. Now maybe just get the armor on him and that make him be a bit more imposing, and hopefully that happens.
It's just Anakin in episode 3 on Mustafar.
It is.
That's all
it
I
is.
thought of.
It 100% is. And that's where I thought like we could have that route where eventually it's like, but again, it won't ruin it, because to me, I feel like when he's almost the state of Sauron, he's like so far gone. Like that's when he's really just consumed by evil, and he is just evil. Where this is still that kind of, evolution to it. So, Taylor, where are you on the Sauron of it all?
Again, this is just another thing that really, really got me hyped this episode. This is where the score really sold me, because I'm so into that Sauron theme. I think throughout the whole show, we've only really gotten it through that intro prologue part of episode 1. So just to have like the slow burn variant of it here in this episode was fantastic. I'm going to listen to that on repeat tomorrow. But the score stacked with him, like, not even like revealing himself, but Galadriel figuring it out, I really liked. And I was torn because I thought like, okay, well, when Celeborn, not Celeborn,
Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor, thank you. Yeah, so close.
How could you
Jesus.
mess them
A couple
up?
more
Come
B's on
on.
that one, Taylor. Come
Fuck.
on now.
So when he said that line that not to like rule of flesh but over flesh, and just those like shady things. That's when I jumped up. I was like, Madison, that's Sauron. It's
Oh,
clearly
no.
no, because I was wrong. But then when he was like, not
You
stuttering,
thought
but
Celebrimbor was Sauron for a second?
well, he said that line, and I was like, oh, that's extremely sus. And
I would have been a different person on this review if that guy was Sauron for me. Like,
like it
God
made sense to
damn.
me kind of because he's like pushing to make the rings and or like make this shit or whatever. I don't know. It just he seems suspicious. And then
Make
when
this shit.
when he got like stuttered and started saying that he heard that phrasing from one of his workers or someone, then it clicked like, okay, well, Halbrand now having maybe spoken something like that because Halbrand came in and just was providing all these solutions to Celebrimbor. So that's when it started to
Now,
click.
now I'm
like,
just picturing
oh.
that Halbrand when they're working, just under his breath, is like, "I'm gonna fucking rule Middle Earth one day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Rule
gonna
over
kill
flesh."
all these people."
He's just talking to these elves. You guys like volcanoes? Oh, no reason. I was just wondering. And then he goes back to his rings. Like, it's just very off. It's like they
My
should
good
do-
friend Adar will be joyed to see me.
Yeah, I knew an elf once.
Fuck Numenor.
Yeah, it's like that SNL skit they did with Kylo Ren when he's like undercover boss. It's just
Yeah.
that where he's
Oh,
dropping all
that's
these
so
hits
good.
like, oh, those rings. Could I try one of them on for a little bit? Well, anything else on Sauron, Halbrand, Galadriel? I don't have much to add on Galadriel because I think she was solid in this episode. I think she was all good in those warpy scenes. She was just detective mode. There's not much for her to do here. And not a bad thing. It's just like
Yeah.
she's learning. Okay, cool. You know.
I did like the set piece with her and like her brother
Finrod.
Yeah, Finrod. Wow, look at you reminding me of the name.
I'll never forget the name Finrod.
yeah.
It's one of the lamest names of all time. What's your name? I'm Finrod. Okay.
It was
cool.
a good
I'm
touching
Adar.
moment to go back there. Like that's how the show started. Was in
Yeah.
like I think they're in Valinor there, so that was pretty cool to see. And then yeah, like you already mentioned, like the trippy mind sequence, the Mysterio sequence that she was
100%,
going
yeah.
through. And yeah, like for her, she's been my rock solid throughout the entire show, like 10 out of 10, just performance wise. And she's fantastic. And it was so great to have her in like out of the armor and into like the more like ceremonial, like linden, like noble, like dress wear. I like the green. It looked awesome. So, yeah, I think overall, like again, like she's done some wars in the season, so this was a lot more of a calm down for just her, like specifically, I'd say. But she's fantastic. I cannot wait to see where we go next season, and I'm curious if we have less combat with her. Like I know she's still the commander of the Northern Armies, but I don't know. Like at some
Really?
point, like she's got to be hanging up the boots and just finding Celeborn and
I think
going to be a lord and a lady in the woods somewhere.
I see. I think we got a lot more action. I feel like
Lot more,
that
yeah.
that result of Galadriel, that's like the last season when she hangs up the boots. That's when the adventure's over and stuff like that. Because I
She's
feel like
still
e-
super mad. She's got to
Yes.
go messing people up.
Yeah.
she's even more mad now. And this is where retrospectively, where I could say why it's like a perfect season for me. I don't think I was all down to meme on Kirklin. I was all down for her to get it on because like who cares if her husband's dead? She's a single lady. She can get with this guy, whatever. I don't think they needed them to have this sort of. Because I know what they're trying to do. I feel like they're trying to do the Raylo thing where he feels something for her and she feels it too, and there's going to be that push and pull. I don't think I needed that because it is just kind of weird where it's different, not to defend that, but with Raylo, they met, there's all this journey, yada, yada. But this, it's like, he like killed her brother, so it's like there's never really going to be a starting point. I feel like it's just kind of a non-starter. She's never going to really turn the corner and be like, you know what, I could put that aside. Be with you. It's like, no, he killed her brother. So I actually don't think the whole there's some attraction last week or there's been like the glances or the touches. I think they could have taken that out of the season. I think they're going to play with that a bit more in the future, but I don't think that hits as well as if it was just Halbrand and he was like a maybe potential love interest, that's the route I'd be fine with it. But as Sauron, I don't need Sauron trying to sleep with the sister of the guy he killed. It's kind of like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Ultimate victory.
Yeah,
I-
100%. Yeah.
I thought the scene of her having to sacrifice the dagger was very powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
as Kirkland said, like she is the highlight of the show for me, and like she has not had a bad scene. There's been other bad stuff in scenes that she's in, but I feel like she specifically is always great. I'm really just always intrigued, but that scene as well, I really like that. Travis, what's up?
Oh, just as my last shout out, everybody, if it's a spooky season, you want to see more of her, Canadian Saint Maud is on Netflix. Give it a watch. It's an exorcism movie, but it's a very different type of exorcism movie.
Oh.
Some really fucking weird imagery in there, so give it
Cool.
a watch. That's where I first saw her. So
I'll check that out. And then also in that same scene, the shots of the forging of the rings, the zoomed in shots, seeing all that blacksmithing goodness. I just ate that up. That was like the best stuff ever. I want that to be just like the intro of the show now for the future seasons. Take away that stupid sand thing that we had and just give me those rings. It fits the name of the show. So I could be down if they did like, some playful other shots of that kind of thing, forging of rings. That'd be super cool. But that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'll never get tired of that stuff. Like even when they had that first like title reveal of like like the Rings of Power like image, and then they like actually did that, like it wasn't CGI, like they did it with practical means, and yeah, I'm down. Like have this as the season 2 opening. I like the sand. I thought the sand looked cool, but in comparison to this, yeah, it's not really.
It's just so
comparable.
generic. I
it
feel
is
like
so generic.
There's
yeah.
so many shows that have that exact same thing.
I'm like, am I watching Halo right now? Like, what is this opening?
Pretty much, man.
Oh, sorry.
I have a couple other. I don't know if I have anything else on Galadriel. So unless, well, actually,
I was just gonna add on to
one
that
last
ring
thing.
scene, so you
Sorry,
keep going. No, you keep going.
Is that we knew that Elrond and her were going to reconvene this episode as they're both headed to Linden at the end of the last episode. And yeah, I liked the dynamic they had in, what was it, episode 1, 2, whatever it was. Then they venture on their separate paths, and I liked having them again. I really like that friendship. I love Elrond, and he's a character to me that's also been like perfect this whole show. I really enjoyed him, Galadriel as well. So to have them together is just amazing. So I liked every scene that they had together. Some worry, some concern from Elrond towards Galadriel, but it all worked for me. So that was fun as well. And yeah, I guess like next season will presumably, if it's a continuation like right from where we are here, I'm sure we'll see a lot of them together next season, and I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
Let's take an ad break and then maybe we could talk about Elrond. I don't know. We'll take an ad break. Be right back. And we're back. No, the reason I wasn't sure because I was like, I guess he didn't do too much in this episode other than he paced around. Yeah, there with Galadriel. Yeah, I hope they're together because I'd like to see, as I've said before, I really like Elrond, the character, but I haven't been too into his interpretation, so I hope more. But yeah, I don't think I have anything to add on the ring. The rings was all great. Like you guys said, it's like the cape porn version for superheroes of the show. It's like ring porn. It's just like seeing the curves of the ring and you're seeing the fire. Like, oh yeah. So, but other than that, I don't think I have anything else to add on the elves or the rings or, Gilgalad is still acting fucking shady as always. He's not supposed to be shady at all.
Man.
That's like,
No.
like he's just like, I think he's 100% miscast. Whoever they got for this guy,
agree.
he's a miscast. And every time they play, I don't know. I'm just still not a fan. Anytime he's on screen, I'm like, let's fast forward. Let's move along.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Recast
completely-
season 2.
Completely agree as well. It's unfortunate.
Halberd
'cause,
and
like,
him switch places.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh
actors.
god.
Yeah,
I don't
the
want that. Yeah.
Well,
this
he might be
guy's
more evil as a Sauron,
Fuck.
though. But he looks a bit more stoic and creepy than Halbrand and
He
stuff.
always has his head tilted down. And
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's probably.
wonder if
Somehow
it's
his
like the
chin's up at
crown.
the same time.
If he has his head like regularly, the crown will fall off or something. So he has to like do
That's
that.
probably
so
it.
stays.
They didn't tape
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And that wig and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Gilgalad's been one of like my biggest, or not my biggest. That's a claim there, but it's been a big disappointment for me in the show, honestly, because I just haven't really experienced the character. And from what I like read about, like he seemed to be like a very prominent like High King of the Noldor. So it's like, oh, I can't wait to meet this like really like badass king of like this awesome elven race. And like back in the day when they're in their prime, I can't wait to see this. And then we get this guy that's just
This guy's a
super sus.
bitch.
Always like yeah, it just seems like he's always just like super sus on what all of like the people, all the other elves are like their doings and all this stuff, trying to shut down Celebrimbor's project. And
He's always behind the curve. It feels like I guess they knew about the Nithra, but everything else just feels like he's trying to like catch up.
And like I feel like his one like saving, or like not saving grace, but like his one great moment in the show was that line delivery that he gave to Elrond in that one moment, and then Elrond like brought that line back and like shot it like to him, and it was just like, oh yeah, I did say that. I am an asshole right now. It's just like, Fuck this guy. But
Whatever, I'm not making the rings, and then he left. He wasn't even like really a part of this whole ring debacle. You know, like he was nowhere to be seen and stuff. So, on the other hand of that, because I keep always forgetting his name, I'm like, I'm not gonna forget this week. What is the name of Isildur's dad? It's
Elendil.
Elendil. I continue like this guy again. Talking about last week, what I wanted. We talked about was whose boat was it? Was he on the boat? He was on the boat, and I like them doing the storyline where he thinks his son's dead. He's gonna be at Numenor for a while, and when him and Isildur reunite, I think it'll be an emotional thing. So I really like what that sets up for season 2. I really enjoyed the conversation he had with the Queen as far as like last week he was so dejected and he was completely like he was done with Galadriel, he was done with the war, everything, but he just they both had this thing of it's when you choose this life, it's not going to be easy no matter what you're going to do. So you have to either you're going to give up or you're going to keep pushing forward because the fight's still happening. So what are you going to do about it? So I liked their interaction. I'm really liking them as a duo more as the show's gone on of like their connection, but he has become if I had to rank like a 5 like favorite characters of the season, he's definitely up there. I'm a big fan of him, and I think the actor too. I really like how he portrays him. So yeah, I liked the resolution of he's gonna just trying to keep trucking forward. He's super depressed. He lost his son, but it has to be worth something, So
yeah, Lloyd Owen, that's the actor's name.
Lloyd.
And just such like a kingly. He's got such a kingly face to him. Like I like it's just like visually, he's like a perfect like look for like Elendil back in the day when he was kicking ass. So
he's
I'm
Peter
definitely-
Jackson Cassidy looks like.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He fit
Oh,
right
yeah.
in these movies. Yeah.
100%. I want to see him on screen with Boromir. Unfortunately, we
Next
won't have
game.
that.
Next
Lord of the
game.
Rings cinema or multiverse of madness. One of those things.
You just hear the horn in the end of season 2. Like, who's that? It's like,
Oh my god!
Boromir.
Some
I'm from the
portals
future.
enter. Again, canonically, that would be very just like nails on chalkboard. But like, man, for that moment, I think I would love it. And
Sean
throw it in
being out of nowhere.
multiverses. Get more Lord of the Rings characters, multiverses.
That's true. I guess I feel like they were really playing up that these two are kind of in love. Were you guys not getting that?
I had that vibe, but there was if they're not in love now, it's forming. That's what I was getting from this scene. Just how close he got to her, and it just I think something's brewing.
They've had a lot of maybe intimate is not the best word, but like private moments where like they kind of have not like they have secrets about each other, but it's not like in a negative way. It's just like they've been through. I'm not explaining this the best. They've shared particular moments, and I definitely agree that it seems like there's some closeness brewing, and it felt already there. Like they did have just, I mean, from maybe one direction, because for him that's just his queen. He's kind of he's forced to obey her, but yeah, definitely
Trying to make
there's
it into the royal
some
family
seeds.
over here.
Yeah.
That husband's shitty.
He's a new
so
son.
Exactly. And that husband sucks, so she's getting a new husband too. You think that husband's gonna take care of her when she comes back blind? Absolutely not. He's gonna be a piece of shit. We all know that's gonna happen.
Which husband?
Her husband, isn't it? She married to that
She
king
doesn't have
guy.
a husband, does she?
Is
She's
she
no
not married
husband.
to- Who's the guy at the back? Because so there's her
Our
father's
Farzan?
the
Like-
father's the one that,
Farzan?
Yeah, who's that guy? Is that not her husband?
He's
That's like
just
her
like-
uncle, I think.
Fuck, I
I
misread
didn't
that
actually know
one.
they're related. I just
Yeah,
thought he
I'll-
was like the person in charge now that she's gone, and the
I'll
king
double check
is like
that.
sleeping.
Okay, well then if they're not, then definitely she can get with God,
Elendil.
bring Elendil. Thank you, Dylan. Definitely 100%. I thought there was gonna be. That's where I was like, oh, we're gonna get some drama here, but absolutely not. Like if they're both single people, Isildur's mom doesn't seem like she's in the picture because she passed away. So it's like, let's do it. I will mention here before I forget because it hadn't come up because of my name. I don't know what the hell was going on in that scene with the king, and there's the moment of Isildur's sister's in there. She's like checking on him, and he just wakes up, raged and in a sweat. Just, I know what you do late at night alone, and I was just like, what is happening here? I had a Family Guy, like it was just. I cannot wait to send this off cast for this
Very
gift because
bizarre scene.
my mind went to a lot of different places. Like, what is he talking about? And we don't know what he's talking about, so I'm not sure if that's supposed to insinuate she's up to something, but or if he's just sick. But him just, I know what you do alone at night. It's just like, oh man, that took me out of it. Like I was giggling.
Super weird.
Yeah, a little
I was
weird
giggling,
there.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got my name, and it was perfect because I had some mad thoughts going into this episode. Really quickly, it seemed like it's actually her cousin, And I don't want to speak too much further on like what happens if you don't want to get spoiled and possibly what they're gonna do like related to the books. But at one point, I think he like forces her to like marry him essentially. So we'll see if that happens in the show.
I wasn't far off, you know. Well, I already
Yeah.
got that's why I thought they were husband and wife, because lots of time in the series they were paired together, they were talking lots, and it felt like a very she's taking orders from a husband like figure. So
Right.
so we're getting some House of Dragons incest going on.
Yeah, and like on that note, that's why I thought it was like an uncle dynamic, because it just seemed like I can't even recall if they said clearly that they were or weren't related, or like they were in a relationship or they won't. I just kind of like assumed because I was like bringing in some prior knowledge into the show. So I am curious on another rewatch, or if someone in the chat saw that.
Yeah, I guess for me, for that relationship between the Queen and Elendil, like this whole season, they have a lot of scenes together, and obviously they're working closely together strategically. But I never really got that vibe, or I never thought that they were going to go that direction with it. So I don't know. I guess it caught me off guard in that scene. I mean, it's not like that scene was them making out, getting steamy in the underdeck or anything like that. It was more just kind of a subtle hint to it. So it's not like it feels like some forced scenario or anything like that. But definitely something that, once again, I'm looking forward to in season 2 to see how they go about that. But yeah, I feel like there's not too much to break down with those characters. They didn't do a whole lot in this season. But I agree, man. That scene with the king and Earian is her name was just super fucking strange. And like, I don't know why they put that in here. Very odd thing to just tack into the finale, I feel like.
Yeah, it really did feel tacked on.
Yeah.
Taylor?
I think that was all my notes.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, I think that they're doing some things in the bed sheets, you know.
What the fuck?
It's like, who?
Not the
Who are you
king,
talking
not
about
the
right
king,
now?
and
Okay, yeah.
Elendil's daughter. The
Anytime the king's
queen
out of the
and
bed,
Elendil.
she's just fucking some guys in his bed. I know what you're doing in the shadows.
I think when he was referring to "I know what you do in the shadows," I feel like he was hallucinating and speaking on behalf of his daughter, who goes down and accesses the Palantir.
Well, he said Muriel. He said Muriel to her.
Oh, did he
right?
actually?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, can't argue with that.
He knows what Muriel's doing in the dark shadows
Yeah,
at night.
clearly.
I hear you.
Please, people Discord. I see you, what you say about me, vampire. But like,
But
I swear, Discord, YouTube, Twitter people, please tell me your theories of what is she doing in the shadows. What does the king what does he think is going on right now? Because I don't think it's what we're joking around about. So like, what is she doing in the shadows, you know? I don't know.
Like, there's been some small little breadcrumbs about, like, not even necessarily rebellion at this stage, but just some grievances that like the public of Numenor kind of has with like you know, just the elf dynamic, and like obviously we got that when Galadriel was on the island, and like what Ar-Pharazôn was kind of like working towards with that's actually his son, right? The one that's
The guy who was kind of
Elendil's-
flirting with her.
yeah, exactly. That was his son, right?
Mhm.
So like their dynamic there, it definitely is setting up this like, okay, yeah, no, it's going to be a new like direction, and I definitely think that's going to be a big focus point for season 2. And I don't know, maybe because she is somewhat close with that character, like she's gonna have her hand in like this dark coming of it. But again,
Whoa.
I'm
That's what
I'm,
she's
I'm,
doing at night.
I'm
What
ca-
words did you just put together there?
well, as I was talking, I
She
kind of
might have
remembered
her
that he
hand
did
in some
specifically
dark coming.
mention.
What are you talking about? We're gonna get demonetized saying a sentence like that together.
I'm going for the sound bites here. No, but like, I mean, as I was going, I kind of just reminded myself that the king did say Muriel there, so I don't actually think that he was meaning it towards this individual. So who knows?
I missed
what's
the
going on.
name drop there.
Yeah. I think that's everything I got on this episode as well for buying notes. I don't got anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really comment on Nori's like leaving. That was really nice for sure.
Sweet.
I hope she doesn't get fucking jacked up by a warg, because I feel like the whole Harfoot's like survival is based around these like survival tactics they have, and like just like traveling as a group.
Gandalf will
fuck,
save her.
Yeah, she
yeah,
got
no,
Gandalf.
for sure, but still,
No,
it was
the
like
world of men.
when she was leaving like the little village there. I'm like, how far is Gandalf right now? Like, is she just gonna go off on her own and just get fucked up? Like, it's a dangerous place out there. Luckily, it didn't happen. You know, I'm glad we still got Nori around.
No, she's gonna come back and her family is destroyed, and like I shouldn't have left.
Just fucked up by wargs. The complete
Yeah.
opposite of what I'm pitching.
Yeah.
In this universe, the hobbits don't exist because the
Yeah.
ancestors all died.
I was a little shocked that we didn't get any like mention of not a Elendil, a Isildur. Just because it's like
Well, we did.
it's. What do we see him
Like,
on the episode?
Well, no, but I guess like they're still trying to make us think he's dead. I guess.
Yeah, and then that's the
But
thing.
she-
It's like
she did
for any
mention it.
character to like have that effect on, it's like really a Isildur. But you know, again, forget about the Peter Jackson and just keep it to this story.
He could be dead. He could already be dead. We're getting a full on
It is
new
possible.
canon,
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
completely right.
We're just having fun, you know. But
We're just having fun. It's gonna be Muriel and Elendil's new son
Oh,
named
fuck,
also
yeah.
Isildur, which is gonna be
yes.
to replace that old
That makes
Isildur
And then we
that
got the gender
Elendil
swap
hated.
Sauron, and Nori's gender swap
Eminum's
Frodo.
coming back.
Yeah, exactly. They've got it all figured out, you know. Let's do it. Well, Dylan, then what are your final thoughts on this season overall for Rings of Power? Also, we waited a long time. If people didn't know, you can go back. We did the retrospectives for
Yeah.
the anime movies, the Hobbit movies, the Lord of the Rings movies. This was a lot. This was
It was
the
a long
full-
one, eh?
Yeah, this is a full podcast, like 7 years worth of build up for us to get here. We're here. Final thoughts this season, Dylan.
No, I was going to mention that too because we started in July doing some of that stuff. So it's been like, what is that?
The Hobbit retros, right? So that's like the length of the
Mhm.
whole podcast.
Well, yeah,
essentially.
that was a long time ago.
That was in 2018. The Hobbit
Really, just like
retros,
I feel like
yeah.
the last 3 months of my life has just been like Lord of the Rings content, inundated with that, playing games, watching stuff, talking about it for hours on end with you guys. So, you know that classic GIF from the end of Lord of the Rings when Frodo says it's done. Like that's how I'm feeling right now. Now that we're into this season, I know this is just season 1, and you said they're already filming season 2
they're
right
filming
now.
right now.
So
Yeah.
there you go.
So,
it's
confirmed.
So it's not done, but it's done for now. At least I probably won't engage with Lord of the Rings for the rest of the year. You know, give myself a little break here. I guess I'm somewhere in between because like, okay, this is better than the Hobbit movies, so I'm getting some new stuff that I'm enjoying. But it's not even close to those Lord of the Rings movies, which it's tough. Those are big shoes to fill, and I don't have big Hobbit feet, so it's hard to fill those shoes. So, yeah, I'm glad to have some Lord of the Rings content. There's a lot of stuff I really liked in here. There's some things I'm looking forward to. I mentioned this last week's episode that I really don't think the finale is going to answer all the questions. Obviously, it can. It's season 1 of a show that they're planning multiple things, but I feel like they're just going to leave it off where there's a lot of things open, and that is the case. We did get some answers, which I'm glad about because then we don't have to just speculate for the next 2 years and all these theory videos. It's nice that we got some more confirmations, but yeah, I'm still feeling like I don't feel like this is the end of a thing for me. So I don't know. I guess I don't have that conclusive end of a season kind of feel that most shows do. And not even that this was super cliffhangery because it isn't. It isn't like I don't know. There's a lot more shows that end on like more savage points where you're just like chomping at the bit for more. Whereas I'm okay to sit and wait now for the next season. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm feeling a little conflicted. I don't know. I don't have a nice definitive point to put on this one. It just feels like just kind of withered into something else, and it's not done yet. So I don't know.
Plus, it did end on a literal cliff. Sauron was walking cliffs and mountains to get
That's
to Mount
very
Doom,
true. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'll go next. Like I said, my journey was with the show. I was liking it. I thought, it's just very well made. Kind of some of my similar thoughts to some of the most recent Andor episodes. Like, okay, it's well made, like it enough, but I wasn't loving it. It just got higher and higher and higher. I think there's some things that in season 2 could strengthen it even more, weaken it even more. But as of right now, if the rest of the series kind of stays this quality, I'm very happy. This is something that I will definitely watch again. I have to because Emily, I think she fell asleep in episode 3 and then she's never returned to it. She wants to watch, but I'm like, okay, perfect. I got a reason to go back and watch it. But like I said, it just feels like a nice companion piece to Lord of the Rings. And yeah, I'm the same camp as all these guys where I'm happy this is my life because we have content and stuff. It's not completely perfect, but I think it's it's pretty close to, not perfect, but pretty close to the perfect score. But I can't give it that. I'm gonna give it though a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, I was pretty high. It's this back half of the season really got me, and I just have nothing but positive thoughts. And it was one of these things that the second this show ended, I was like, I would rewatch this season. Like, and I luckily will watch most of it. But it was just capturing that Lord of the Rings magic for me, which, like Dylan referred to, I did not feel in The Hobbit most of the time. Maybe there was an odd scene or there where it's like, okay, I'm feeling that Lord of the Rings, whether it's the Jackson trilogy or the books. Like, I'm there. Like maybe the first few scenes of Bilbo in the Shire and stuff. But really, it was always missing. Where this, I had moments of that. So I'm looking very forward to. Again, it's probably gonna be a little wells off, but I'm looking very forward to the future of the show. And I had a good time, you know. And I also am not burdened with the canon, so that helps a lot with me too, that I've either forgotten some of it or just because I've been railing on it for 2 years, if I don't check it at the door, drop it and stuff. So I think I just nailed my head, like, because at one point I thought we were gonna be seeing dicks in this show, you know. I was somebody that, like, at one point when they're, which I never knew where that came from, when they said they needed nudity, like it was gonna be nice nudity, we didn't see any nudity. But those early days, and I guess I should go back to that, those early days rumors of it's gonna be like Game of Thrones, there's gonna be swearing and sex scenes, even though we got one shit, but it's fine. I'm so happy this is the show and not what was some of the. I'm not sure if those were just pitches. I'm not sure if those were false rumors. Whatever they were, whatever the show is, I'm happy with this is. So
One person was pitching just sex,
100%,
sex.
yeah. Galadriel Sauron gonna get it on Mount Doom.
First
but
episode.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'll always circle back to this.
usually I would end on you, Kirklin, but I'm not going to,
Yeah.
because I'll let Taylor in it, because I'm sure it will be more positive as far as
It's
I
always
remember.
nice to end on a more positive
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
for sure.
I try. You know. But
Yeah,
what
I
are
mean-
your final thoughts on rating?
Yeah, so all in all, as Travis just mentioned again, like I'm glad that we live in an era that we can just still be getting like new Lord of the Rings, Tolkien centered like just shows and stuff, and it's awesome. It's content, but also just to give me an excuse to talk about these just wild, like, again, like deep Tolkien lore stuff for multiple hours with you guys. It's been awesome, especially just like the last few months. Again, just great excuse to spew about it. No, I don't have to just go off on like just reading this off to Shay and just annoying her. So it's good for, she probably likes it a lot more too. But yeah, all in all, I think this is definitely top quality show. For like overall enjoyment, and like if I just wanted to like completely disregard like my previous knowledge of Tolkien stuff, honestly this would have been like an 8.5 out of 10. I think like maybe closer to 9 even. It wouldn't have been like perfect, just because I do think without like some characters being certain characters that I love from like the past lore, I do think the finale wasn't like a great finale as a whole. But that being said, I am cursed by knowledge and have these Tolkien lore things, and just a lot of maybe I won't say a lot. There was some stuff in here that was just a little bit too like egregious for me to really look past. It was just really biting at my ankles here. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna just leave it at a 7 for now. It could definitely go up or down, like at with multiple watch-alongs and stuff. And like I said, like I can't wait to watch this again. Like, now that Shay hasn't seen it, it'll be a good excuse, like Travis mentioned, to go through it again with her. So I'm looking forward to that, and I am still like, okay, it ended in a way that I'm not like the vast majority of the show I did enjoy, so therefore I'm still looking forward to next season, and that's a good hope. It's not like, oh fuck, okay, 2 years till the next season, it's not long enough. I'm not one of those people. So yeah, Tolkien, keep on. It's not even Tolkien. I don't know why I'm dropping the name. Amazon, there you go, that's their name.
They bought Tolkien. They just have
They
his
bought
grave
Tolkien,
site
the
now.
Tolkien estate.
Yeah. Taylorfield.
So yes, my knowledge and insights going into like the deeper Lord of the Rings kind of realm is very limited. So this show offering a nice entry level gateway into the the realms and the characters and just more backstory, I really appreciate and I really liked. While it was subject to some very slower parts during some episodes, those aren't enough for me to really negate this by like a large margin, because I love the character dynamics, the progression and the narrative that we were seeing unfold. It led to this fantastic finale that I really did enjoy. I'm sure that there's going to be some discussions had amongst the fan base, the community of just like, because like we're
I'm doing this way.
well, I feel like we're
the
like,
exact
same way in the books. Oh yeah.
it's reflected.
Stop watching.
It's reflected
Yeah.
good of like again our discussion tonight, where like some of us had cons with it, and some of us had pros with other things, and again that's going to be reflected with the majority of the community, I feel. So that's totally fine, and I would probably put this at a. I thought of it being one thing and then another, but I think I'm gonna put it at an 8.5 out of 10, which I still think is I'm being pretty generous with, just because I loved a lot of what I got. But just the 1.5 is just those slow moments in some episodes where, unfortunately, like it was super slow. I'd grab the remote and be like, "Holy fuck! I have like 40 minutes left." Oh, it's just like whoa!
Wow.
It's just like it was brutal, but.
Sounds
Again,
brutal. Is
The
that why
intro's on.
you weren't on the
Fuck,
show
how much
last
time's
week?
left?
That's why you weren't on the show last week. 40 minutes, you just went to sleep.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this is a great finale, and I am more stoked than ever just to get a season 2 of this. Like, just to have this 4 different shows going on right now, like Arender, She-Hulk, and House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. I've just been like
What a
looking
fucking
at
2
like,
months, man.
yeah, it's been crazy. I've just been like gauging like where do I rank all these shows as I'm like going through them all at the same time. 'Cause
don't say
I'm not
anything,
getting into it now.
Because Dylan had a good idea when the year-end cast. We're going to do a top 5, like our separates. Because we reviewed a lot of shows this week. Don't even forget,
Yeah.
like this whole year we also had Dexter, and I'm not saying where Dexter is, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Dexter, remember that? Like
It's been a chunky
That was this
year
year?
of content.
Yeah.
Holy
So
moly.
I'm gonna make a list close to the end of the year of like what shows we have reviewed. But yeah, Dexter.
Put
remember that was in
Chucky in there.
January. You could put it's your list. You can make it top. Chucky could be all over your
It's your
top 5.
list.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, he ain't gonna be anywhere on
This
mine.
isn't a
And-
Golden Geeks thing. You can
Yeah.
do whatever you.
And I will say, check out Chucky's because Chucky is. I'll get around to it. It's not a bad show. It's really fun. I just, as I don't have time for another show right now, as we're currently watching every fucking show known to man. Thank God, man, I got delayed to next year. I'm pretty
Oh,
happy
yeah.
about that. Like if that would have been happening in December, but. It is not. So, well, yeah, thank you to everyone in the chat. Lots of people tuned into this live. If you like what we do here and about anything else, whether it's video games, other movie shows like the ones we're talking about, TV shows, stuff like that, come back. We're always doing this stuff. We're always breaking them down. We usually post the schedule. It's on Patreon, but I make the post public so you can look on it and stuff every week. You see what we can do. And, yeah, this was lots of fun, Jim, and I'm glad, like I said, this is long, big build up and everything like that. I have it in my notes, so I was going to say that, but a bit, how do you say even Namarie,
but
Namarie.
you'll do a
Namarie.
cool little roll a bit, I think. I'm not good at those.
Namarie.
Yeah.
Namarie.
Dylan's
Yeah, but
like he's fluent in Quenya. He's
he
good.
sounded like Mario there though when he was saying that Mushroom
Mario.
Kingdom. Here we
It's me and the
come.
Mario.
But new Mary to everybody. Thank you very much for tuning these, and I promise you, I'll not be boring.
Bye.
Bye-bye.